Hello everyone, welcome. I'm gonna make this little update video here since TradingView has recently made a lot of headway in regards to their own market profile and TPO indicator. So as you know, throughout this trading with market profile and volume profile course, I've mostly been using Sierra Chart, which is my preferred platform for day trading. However, I wanted to just bring up this update because at the time that I made the recording of the course, this indicator was only in its beta stage. It was just being tested out, so the functionality was very limited, and that was one of the main reasons I couldn't really feature it as much as I wanted in the course, just because I know TradingView is the most popular platform there is, and most people use it. And so I wanted to make it a big part of the course as well, but unfortunately at the time it wasn't available completely. But now that it is pretty well developed, I'm going to make just an update and show you all the functionality and everything. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and if I bring up the TradingView plans page, is you do need to have a premium plan in order to have access to all this more advanced order flow tools like market profile. They just released a footprint indicator as well, which I'm going to make a video for the order flow trading course that I'm going to add on as well as other ones like cumulative delta, etc. So it is pretty good to see that TradingView is stepping up their game and actually releasing more serious indicators and tools that day traders and order flow traders use. If you go down here, you can see premium type price opportunity, which is not available in the cheaper plans. So, the plan, this is the price if you buy a whole year subscription. So, the cost is actually even a little more expensive than Sierra Chart, but you do get the advantages of cloud-based, it works on any device, etc. But still, like I said, I use Sierra Chart more, but I just wanted to bring you this update. So for this, if you go up here, you can see when you select the chart types and you go below, it says time price opportunity and is marked as new. So if you click on that, it's going to reload there. Let's go into a 30-minute time frame. I'm looking at the continuous contract for the ES futures. And so you can see we have the market profile here. This is all the default settings that TradingView is going to give you with this. So if I double click on this, now you're going to get the settings, which is actually going to be underneath the chart settings. This used to be set as like an independent indicator with its own settings page. It is now going to go under chart settings because basically we're just choosing a different bar type from the list here. And so price source, close. Line, this is just for the price line. And we can take this on and off too. If you don't want to have a price line here, you can just select the opacity down to 0 and just take it off. Generally, I don't like to have a price line here. So I'm just going to take this thing completely off, but you can have it there if you want. Time price opportunity periods, 1 day. This is what I use. If you want to have like weekly profiles, then you can just select 1 week, and you can see now you have TPO profiles that cover an entire week's time. So this will be from Monday to Friday. Okay, but let's just go back to the daily ones. And now if we double click and keep going through all the options, block size, this would leave as default as 30 minutes. As in TPO, we know that every period or every letter is going to correspond to a 30-minute period during the trading day. Row size, this thing, I keep tinkering with this because as you can see, it's set on auto. So that means the TradingView, depending on the level of zooming in or out that you have on the charts, is going to adjust the block size. If you put it on manual, and then the lower the tick per row, the more definition you're going to have on this. But if you put it like super small, then it's not going to like show anything because it's going to be too, unless you're like very zoomed in. But I found out with like the ES, probably like 3 ticks per row is like the lowest that I like to go. And you can see, remember this ticks per row, this is all based on the price scale. So if you go and you use this on like Bitcoin or NASDAQ that have very big price scales, you're probably going to have to use 5 or maybe 10 ticks per row in order for it to show up properly. But like with the ES, I think between 3 to 5 is a very good balance of you get a very good definition. You know, you can see the single prints very clearly, etc. Then let's continue. Gradient colors. I generally like to use like a gray scale. Maybe let's do a little bit less strong. Maybe something like that. Yeah, let's say like that, from light to dark gray. So basically what this means is as the day opens, you get the light blocks, and as the day progresses, it's going to be getting darker and darker in the profile. Now, I have selected blocks, or you can select either one, blocks or letters. If you take both off, then the profile is going to disappear. I generally like to use blocks. I don't really use letters, but if you want to use letters, one thing to keep in mind is, see, now I have letters enabled, but there's nothing showing up. That is because you need to really zoom in order to see the letters. See, now the letters come up. So the thing is, you're going to need, you know, a pretty big monitor or have a very high resolution in order to be looking at this, or you're just going to have to up the tick count in order to have the letters cover a wider range on the profile. If I go here and I put 5 ticks per row, then it's going to adjust it and make it a little bit bigger like you have here. But as always, you know that the profile is going to open. This is 6 p.m. Eastern. So this is the open of futures. So you're going to have the A opening here. One thing that I don't think I found, unless, let me see. Okay, electronic trading hours. This is going to cover all 23 hours in futures. If we put regular trading hours, then this should give us just profiles based purely on from 9:30 a.m. till 4 p.m. Basically regular market hours. And you can see now if we go here, let me actually mark the open price, close price. Okay, so you can see right here, opens on the A letters, opens on the A letters, because again, this is only taking into account regular market hours. But in general, you know, I like to have electronic trading hours so it covers everything, and I like to use blocks. Okay, so let's zoom out and bring back again the profile. So let's bring it back to 3 ticks per row. Value area, I always like to use 68, generally 70 by default. Opacity of outside value area. So that means this area here. Everything below value area low and above value area high, this is going to be how much opacity is going to have. So generally, I have it, pretty close, about like halfway or even more, because in reality with market profile, all I really care about mostly is looking at the singles, the edges, poor highs, lows. This option split by blocks, if you put this in, then it's going to basically split your profiles into blocks. So this will be 30-minute periods. So you can see right here, we open at 6 o'clock, first blocks right here, then 6:30, second, 7 o'clock, and remember A period, B period, C period, etc. And then this is going to just join both sessions together. So this is one thing that is still a little tricky that I don't like with TradingView, is that you cannot clearly split up the market profile when it comes to futures. Obviously, if you go into another market like Forex, and let me just wait for this to load. Okay, so this would be like the split profile for the Euro US dollar. And if we unsplit it, then you can see here we have the profile. You can see that it looks really small. So maybe for Forex, for Euro US dollar, we're going to up it up to like 5 ticks per row. And remember, with the TPO, it's all about time and price. So regardless of what instrument it is all going to be working, it's all going to be very precise because we're just measuring time and price in here. And well, we do have the volume profile here as well on the right. Okay, point of control will be highlighting the area with the most time spent. So the area where the most time was accumulated. In this case, since this is Forex, this is a 24-hour period we're looking at here of action. Poor highs, poor lows. And you can actually select to extend them until they are intersected as well, and the single prints as well. So if I zoom out, you can see, for example, here's a single print that is marked with this pink line and is going to extend it until the next time that it is intercepted over there. Here's another single print that is started, and all the little single prints. The prints are only highlighted, remember, where it starts and then it goes in that direction. So like this day was a very bearish day, and you can see we had several single prints to the downside marked off over here. Okay, so that is, we can select don't extend, and then in this case it's only going to extend it until the end of the period, in this case the 24-hour trading day in Euro US dollar. And then the poor highs and lows, trying to go back to find a highlight for poor high or low. Okay, so like right here, we have a poor high right over here. As you can see, we have two periods that are at the same level, and then we have this little dotted blue line extending over there. So those would be the markings of the poor highs and lows right over there. Here you can pretty much just change the color of it. I'm just going to keep them purple because that's in general how I like to use the colors on Sierra chart. I have poor highs and lows purples, and I have the single prints in pink. Okay, right there. Unfortunately, you cannot really customize the coloring, I mean the type of line or the thickness. You can just change the colors for now. So hopefully they change this so you can actually change it to make it a solid line or a dotted, etc. Okay, so that's the poor highs and lows here. And then the next markings that we have would be value area high and low, which if I take this off, then you can see they come off of the charts. But this is going to be the extremes of the 68% value area. TPO midpoint, which you can see marked in red, is basically the midpoint from the high to the low. Open price, close price. It's basically these little markers right over here with a little triangle where it shows you where every market is going to be opening and closing. Initial balance range, I always use 2, so that means the initial balance is going to be the first 2 periods A and B, or the first hour of trading. And again, this really only has relevance for me on the first official hour of trading in futures, specifically from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. With other markets like Forex, usually people would take the initial balance of the London Open, then from the New York Open. In crypto, it's usually taken at midnight UTC. But again, you know, those markets, I don't really actively day trade them. I only day trade futures. So I just mainly focus from 9:30 to 10:30. Show volume profile, here you can turn it on and off. Values, if you enable this, you need to really zoom in, and this is just going to show you the amount of contracts that have been traded at each price level. Let's just go back to the ES, because we know in Forex we don't really get that, you know, there's no really precise volume data in spot Forex unless you were looking at currency futures. But here you can see this is the volume data at each of these tick levels for the ES market. Then if we keep going down, we can mark the value area high and low of the volume profile. We can mark the point of control. I usually always like to have this in, let's see here, unfortunately, yeah, we cannot show here, volume. So I always like to use grays over here, like that. This one, let's do like that. Value area high, value area low. I always like to use orange. So this is the setup that I use in Sierra chart. As you've seen, I like to use orange lines for my value area high, low, and the point of control. And here you can change the thickness of it and the type of lines, as you can see. This is the outside value and the value area placement, left or right. I like to have it on the left. Session, we talked about this again. This is mostly if you're just trading futures or stocks just to filter out the extended hours. Adjust for contract change. So this is going to be when you have rollovers specifically. Precision, I have default. And UTC, I have New York UTC -4. And remember, with futures, I always like to have this enabled. This is the back adjusted. So this is just going to adjust for the gaps that you get whenever there is a futures contract rollover. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Other things you can do, which is a new function that they added, is now it is possible. Let me take off the volume profiles, just so we can focus merely on the TPOs right here. If you right click on it, you have these options on the bottom now, which this is an update they did. This was not available in the beta. Split profile at this letter, merge with previous profile, reset all merges. When I was doing the course, there was no possibility to do merges of profiles. The splitting, honestly, it's a little bit hard to do. Like in Sierra chart, you've seen that I can right click and I just put split profile and have it show me the profile as a TPO and then as the broken up TPO side by side, which is ideal. Over here, all they let you do is split it. So I would just go to the very open, and if I put split at this letter, it's going to split it, but you can see it's not really like precise. I don't really like this just because it says split at letter, but I can't really like select a very specific place to open it. So anyway, that function, I still playing around with it. I don't think it's very useful, but the merging, it is very useful because as we've talked about, the composites are a huge part of volume profile trading. Let me take off the singles just so it's not too distracting to have all those pink lines. So for example, let's do a merging of, let's find a spot where we have a nice overlap. Like let's say here, we have this 5 profiles that have a nice overlap within them. So then in this case, I just right click on it and I put merge with previous profile. Then I right click again, merge with previous. Again, merge with previous. And again, merge with previous. Okay, and now you can see we turned those 5 separate trading days into a big composite volume profile. And then from here, you can take this and then we can mark off our value area. And then you can see how we have, we can then use in the future, as I talked about in the course and all the strategies, we can use this composite in order to then use this as a guide for future trade opportunities. One thing you cannot do here yet is what I told you. You can either split all profiles or just have them all arranged together, which is not really ideal because when I do my composites and I expand my value area, I like to be able to split all these ones into their individual TPO periods in order to then say, okay, once we accept back here, I'm going to look for retests. I mean, obviously you can do what I show on the course as well, which is you can just mark off the zone here. So in this case, like let's say I can go and I can take a rectangle tool and I can just mark off this value area, and this is on January 17th, and then I can go back to regular candlesticks, and then you can see like right here we can see, okay, we were coming back into the value area, we were having some rejection, then we accepted, we traversed, we broke out, and then you can see we got a very nice retest of the extreme of this value area, which was a composite basically from this day to this day, and then we continued up in that movement, etc. And then I can just go back into the TPO view, etc. Okay, so that's just different ways. It's a little bit more limited, than what I was able to show you with Sierra chart, but it's still very useful that we now have all these options. And if I right click on it and I put reset all mergers and splits, then it just all goes back. You know, the split profile at this letter, I think you just gotta play around with it more and figure it more out. Is not as straightforward as the options you have on Sierra chart. But again, I just wanted to make this video just to give you all an update on the 2024 release of the TPO indicator for TradingView. And we just went over the entire set of options here for this indicator and what you can do with it. And that's pretty much it. Hope you're enjoying the course. And as always, you know, I'm always available if you have any questions, and I'll see you all in the next update.